So I wrote 20 different versions of a talk on my work with refugees in Greece and Turkey. It covered stats, stories, ideas, and my connection to Syria. But it didn't capture a structure of feeling. So for that, I wrote a poem, an emotional translation. So this is the land and the history where those people and my parents come from. I close my eyes and visualize every detail. The last time I saw you, it was 7 years ago today. We celebrated with family, never appreciated you when I had you, oh summer romance shaded by jasmine shrubs. I plead with heaven to reunite us so I can be cleansed in your waters, Mediterranean blue, brushed by eastern winds. I close my eyes to remember. You wore conquest and triumph on your face, lines 16,000 years deep. We're robed in layers of empire, chest puffed in a warrior's armor. I knew you from stories, stories longer than a Bedouin's night. But then, you stretched out your hand, offering me mint tea and hand-picked cherries and green pistachios from your garden. From Qasida to Kabani, your poetry of the ancients charmed me. Makam bayati emanating from oud strings, a sweetness as smooth as olive oil and as captive as honey. I close my eyes and watch you moving from ruku to sujood to the rhythm of church bells. You practiced every faith. You marveled at the devotion of each one. Sealing Seder songs with surahs, bearing Christian honorifics in an artery wrapped around minarets. I close my eyes and remember personality cult posters streaming down buildings, disfigured language, subversive jokes, rear-view mirror amulets. Remember that if it didn't please you, you silenced dissent. Ignored and exacerbated debilitating poverty, a poverty so humiliating that many followed a death march towards intangible dignity. So crooked and meandering is the story of our love affair. I beg for a vision of the straight path. Sometimes I'm saddled with indignation. Why won't you let my heart break in peace to the dawn calm of silence? Offer me a morning without rubble, shelling, or torture, an afternoon free of hunger, homelessness, or longing. Save me an evening of suffocating uncertainty, chemical attacks, or propaganda. Some days I wake and see your tears in my father's eyes, your hurt in the cold shoulder of my mother and her weighted heart. What part of my world I would trade to see you again? But I'm generations displaced, Arabic sterilized of its poetry, forever wandering for home. Tormented incessantly as if inherited, bandages, exposed flesh. You are a silent film rehearsed nightly on evening news. Little did they know that your mother died a time too long ago. The scent of musk rose from a buried corpse under rubble. Always rubble. Stone, rubble, stone. My dear Syria, you are every filter I use to see the world. Temples, gardens, courtyards, biblical lands in a prison state. You are more than a geography of violence. How I yearn for our people to have a voice loud and searing enough to quiet white noise that distorts stories, old and human. I stare at your face, a mirror. Though my father left in 1968, I too am a refugee camp. A carcass in an open graveyard, a wish at the bottom of the sea. And then I close my eyes and I beg your understanding. Belonging to everywhere, neglected by everyone. She birthed myths, legends, midwife pagan gods, Jewish prophets, Christian saints, Islamic knowledge. My grandparents, a time ago, perhaps too far for our collective memory, she buried their remains with dignity. Bruised, starved, kingdoms come down, rising from fatherlands. Do we have a place in our hearts for the battered mother who reared prophets, carried temples on her spine, spread legs wide to labor Fertile Crescent. She who knocks down would-be kings from the thrones of the suns. With the dusk of laurel leaves, she finger paints their demise in cuneo form. Milked goats to feed a Rasul's kin, placed a Baptist in Elizabeth's womb. She tosses back orange blossom water, soothing belly inflamed by parasites of war. She rinses tongues in the Euphrates, purifying the sins of our ancestors. Crooning freedom songs, she stomps on treaties and borders inked by madmen. She runs with hawks and wolves across a land between two rivers. Elzaba, descendant of Cleopatra, queen of the desert, maimed lover. She's been witness too many times to catastrophes before, so she knows another sky awaits.